Hello, welcome. You're considering or you've decided to live in a van. Great. The first big decision to make is choosing the right van for you and your life. There are so many options and variables, it's easy to get overwhelmed. I know because I recently decided to take on this adventure and spent countless hours trying to learn all the relevant information to make an informed decision when choosing the perfect van for me. I want to share what I learned in a quick, organized, and easily understandable way. That's why I'm making this video series to go over all of the topics to consider when buying a van in Europe. 2 quick disclaimers before we start. 1. So-called van life has become popular in the last few years, but it's worth mentioning that there is a lot to say on how romanticized it is and how poorly it often considers other forms of houselessness. In this series, when talking about van life, I'm talking about people choosing to live in a vehicle and not having to do so out of necessity. You can find out more about the discussion and social implications of van life in the video linked below. 2. When buying a van, there are 2 initial choices to make: new or used, empty or converted. In this series, I will only talk about empty vans. The already converted vans are a whole different story and, realistically, out of most people's budgets. Some converted vans go for 80k, sometimes even more than 100,000. And if that seems to defeat the purpose of living frugally, oh well, to each their own. Here's what I'll talk about. You can find the other videos linked below. Let's start with van dimensions and size. The questions to answer are 2. How big or small do you want your van to be? And how much space do you need to live comfortably? Like, really? Usually, especially in North America, people who talk about van life have one specific vehicle in mind: the Mercedes Sprinter. The dimensions of this van fall under the L1H2 category. What does it mean? When you look at the details of a van, you'll find a lot of different measurements. Honestly, it's a bit of a mess. But actually, there's only a couple of things to understand, as the rest is fairly standard. Firstly, L and H. These are the length and height of the van, and this is how vans are frequently categorized. The width is very similar in all vans. Second, the wheelbase, which is just another way to measure the length of the van. Depending on what you want to do with the van, I would also maybe look at the payload. To clarify, let's take the Citroen Jumper. Here you can see the dimension schematics. The L1H2 model is this one. These 4 vans all have the same name and are essentially the same van. Jumper, or relay in the UK, but their dimensions are obviously different. After some research, these are the typical van dimensions for each L and H, though the specific numbers may vary slightly between models. Now, why is it important to get this right? Because length and height obviously affect the amount of space you have inside the van. So let's say you want to be able to stand inside and you're 170 centimeters tall. You probably won't fit very comfortably, or at all, in an H1 model. The solution might be to get a van with a rising roof, but that comes with other issues like insulation and energy consumption. So I won't go into it in this video. Let's stick with fixed roofs. In Europe, chances are you have a 4 seasons climate. It might rain a lot, so not being able to stand in the van you live in permanently is a big deal. So that might be something that you want to take into consideration. I personally decided to go with an L1H2 model, which means I can stand comfortably in it, but it's not as long as your regular van life van, which means I'm able to park it more easily in small parking spots. We've now seen how size definitely does matter when it comes to vans. It's also true that making an educated guess on what size you actually need can be very difficult, especially if you don't yet know how you're going to live in the van and what your lifestyle will be. So I would recommend really taking your time, considering all of the available options, and try to think of the things that you want to do on a daily basis in the van. In the next video, we'll talk about van manufacturers, and specific models.